Chess greetings and welcome to Chess Collab. Alfred is my name. Remember to subscribe and share. And today I am going to look at what is check. And remember, last time I touched on how the king moves on the chessboard. So today we are adding a layer talking about what is checkmate. In other words, today main focus is on check. Later on, we are going to look at checkmate. Checkmate will be yet another lesson. So that, remember, I am breaking down these concepts for easy understanding, slowly but surely. So let's dive onto check. In chess, you can win or lose, or draw in a real game situation. That's how it is in chess. As you can see, I'm introducing the pieces on the chessboard. I'm sure you're able to see we have got a black rook, we have got a black king, we also have a white king. So in this case, the king is an important piece on the chessboard. It is important. Why? Because when the king is threatened, it becomes a problem. You have to take action immediately. A threat to the king is also important, in other words. Right. In this case, the black rook is now attacking the white king, as you can see there. So in this case, it's a direct attack. Once it's a direct attack, we describe that as a threat. And wherever there is a threat, that becomes a problem. And that's how we describe check. In other words, in short, check is when the king is threatened directly. In other words, a direct attack to the king is a check. So in this case, as you can see here, black rook is checking the white king. And in this case, white king have to take action immediately. White king have to, or the white team have to make a plan to save the king. Because remember, once the king is exposed and does not have anything to do to protect, the team does not have anything to do to protect that specific king, that becomes a problem and the game can be over. Remember, a king is not allowed to be captured. In chess, that's why we give a warning to say, hey, your king is in danger. That's why we say check. Whenever you hear someone saying check, know that, oh, my king is in trouble. I have to make a plan. I have to do something. There's something which I need to do. Any move that attacks the enemy king is check. If you want, you can say the word check to warn your opponent. These days, most of chess players, at a certain level, you don't even have to say that because you assume that the person you are versing or the person you are playing against or your opponent is quite aware of the rules of the game. That's why they just keep quiet. In other words, it can be described as more professional. If the king is in check, you have to attend to the threat before your opponent moves. In other words, also before your next move. If you decide to move something somewhere else, besides attending to the issue of check, that becomes an illegal move. Remember, in chess, we play according to rules. If you decide to play an illegal moves, that becomes a problem. In this case, as you can see here, the queen is checking the black king. Remember, each piece give a check. Looking at the pattern, the way it moves. So you need to remember how each piece moves for you to be able to know that, oh, this is a check. I have checked my opponent. So please make sure, remember such. So in this case, we are in check. So what can we do? We can block. In chess, we've got 3 options, which we are going to look at right now. The first one, I've already mentioned. You can block when you're in check. What about if I don't want to block? We've got another option. If you don't want to block, then obviously, I'm going to show you on the next chessboard. You can run away. But how can you run away? You're going to see how how the king is going to run away. Right. In this case, this king can go to d5. The black king can run away to d5. Can also run away to e5. Can also run away to f5. Those are the possibilities. And also can run away to f3. So those are the options. So remember, I've told you that we've got 3 options. Block, run away. What else? What do you think? Right. You can also, right, the other position where the king can run away to is also e3. And also d3. Now, I brought in the black bishop. What can be done by the black bishop? As you can see, in this case, remember, this is the queen, which have already indicated a check to the black king. So in other words, the third option, I'm sure you've already noticed, if you have already said, oh, the bishop can capture the white queen. Yes, you are right. It can capture. So in other words, it can capture. So the 3 options. The next last option is your team members can capture the piece which is saying check to your king. Remember, in chess, we play as a team. Right. There we go. Capture. So you can capture that. Once you capture that, that becomes, you have solved the Now let's move on. I'm going to present a different situation where you have to utilize, you can make use of a bishop, as well you can make use of a rook. So in other words, whenever you are in check, you can attack the piece which is saying check to your king. Or you can run away, or you can block. Right, let's see the situation which involves the bishop and also which involves the rook. Right, in this case, the rook is there. Then we've got also a bishop. A bishop there is now saying check. Checking the white king. When it says check, so in other words, in this case, 3 options. We've got 3 options. Let's see. That means you can run away, you can block, or if there is the possibility of capturing the piece which is saying check. So in this case, we don't have any other pieces which can capture them. So just think around those 3 options. Right, let's move on. Let's look on the rook. The rook is here, and the rook is already saying check the white king. What can we do in this case? Obviously, in this case, since white does not have any team members on the chessboard, there's nothing much. The only thing is to run away. So please just remember those 3 options. Run away, capture, or block. Those are the options whenever the king is in check. Remember, the king is the most important piece on the chessboard. And remember, in chess, bishop, rook, queen, pawn, and the knight can also do a check. So remember last time I told you the king are not supposed to be closer to each other. So the king will never perform a check. That's all I wanted to cover in terms of check. In the next lesson, we're going to look at checkmate. Checkmate means the game is over. When the game is over, between the two, one will win, one will lose. But in chess, we are also artists. We're able to draw. But I don't know what kind of a picture or image are we going to draw, if not painting. So next time, we'll look at checkmate. Checkmate is upcoming next. Remember to subscribe so that whenever I share the next lesson, you will receive a notification. Thank you very much indeed for your time.